Good afternoon and welcome to Bourbon Bikes and Business with Hank and Blaise. How are we doing this
Did you forget my name, Blaise?
No, didn't forget your name.
You forgot my name for a second. I'm Hank, everyone.
The traveling man, Hank, is around the world all the time with his son, Hockey.
Yep.
On today's episode, we're going to talk bike packing. And, you know, some of the research I did to get into bike packing, and we're going to go through a list of some of the things I've bought. You don't need all this gear, but I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I did a lot of research before I did. I know you did too. Yeah, right. Before
At the very least, you are a gearhead.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're a perfectionist or gearhead.
Okay, gearhead. And then we're going to talk about a special thing at the end on our next coming shows. We got something really interesting that Mr. Hank came up with here. So let's start it off as we always do. What are you sipping today, Hank?
So, you talked about my travels. This past weekend, I went out to Notre Dame with my son for a hockey camp. And of course, while you're out in Indiana, you got to do a little bourbon shopping because they have different stuff than we do.
I've heard Indiana's a really good state. I know all the bourbon tasters say Indiana's good. I guess because it's close to Kentucky, maybe? I don't know.
Yes. There was lots of stuff there. Mm-hmm. One of the bottles I happened to get was one of those in-demand bottles that everyone's been raving about recently. The Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond, which comes out of Missouri. And this was the last one left in the whole computer system for the store I was in, of like 3 or 4 stores in South Bend.
Wow.
So this is Missouri straight bourbon whiskey, bottled and bond. And if you go onto YouTube at any point, everyone is all a Twitter about Ben Holiday stuff. So we're going to give it a try here. I haven't tasted it yet.
Wow. Cool.
$44 a bottle, something like that. It wasn't.
That's not bad for a bottled and bond for $44.
No.
Should have called me and I would have told you buy me one. That's a good deal.
This was the last one.
Jeez. Good for you.
What do you have?
I've got something different. Now, I've been to this distillery with my son. He was still in college, so it's got to be, or right after you got out of college last year. So it's 4 years I was down there. So this is it's a fairly well-known place, right 15 minutes from Jack Daniels in Tennessee. This is Central Tennessee. So he went to school in Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee State. So I asked him, I think I mentioned this before once, what haven't you done since you've been in Tennessee? He says, well, I really haven't gone to any distilleries. So we went to George Dickel, which is down in the Holler.
The Dickel.
And there's only like 50 employees that run this thing. It's teeny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then you go to Jack Daniels and there's 3,000 people, whatever, that run Jack Daniels. But it's in a place called Cascade Hollow Distillery. This is their 8-year distilled. So we went there first before Jack Daniels. So it was really cool to learn about charcoal, what makes bourbon unique in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. This is an 8-year bourbon. They've been around since 1870, so they're not new.
I was going to say, they're an older brand.
Yeah.
They've been around forever.
If you're ever in Middle Tennessee sometime, stop in there because it's a really small, hands-on, they got this little store with a post office, and you're driving back this little road. You're like, there's some place back in here. It was like back in the woods in the middle of nowhere along a stream. But
I don't have any Dickel in my collection.
Yeah. They have a bottle and bond. I almost bought the bottle and bond, but it was like 70. This is like 33, I think 34.
This has a really good sweet smell to it. And this Ben Holiday stuff is not like MGP or anything. It's their own sauce. And this is
what's
I'm
the
trying to find
alcohol?
Here.
They don't list the proof on here. It says 45% alcohol, so I think that's about 90. Is that right? I don't know. I couldn't find
that stuff?
I couldn't find the proof on the bottle. It's weird.
You just double the alcohol percentage.
So it's 90. Yeah.
Yeah. So this tells you the floors in the warehouse it comes from in percentages, which is kind of cool. And I think this is 6-year stuff, which is really cool because they're a very small distillery having anything sit around for that
Right.
number of years is very difficult to
Right.
afford to do that. So
So this has a
it smells really good.
citrusy, spicy smell.
So that's kind of oak and peanut. It almost has like a
Peanut.
Old Forester
Wow.
type taste to it.
I tasted this last night, took a sip, and I told my other half, I said, tastes like sour apple and spice. She's like, sour apple? I was like, yeah, to me, that's the way it comes across. It's like light. It's not got a heavy burn, a little bit to warm you up, but nothing that lingers.
This does not come across with the heat of 100 proof. Although, I mean, 100 proof isn't crazy, but this has a very subtle taste to it, almost like 90, 95. There's no burn on the finish. There's a little bit of tingle on your tongue. That's
So,
pretty
so
much
is
it.
it spicy? What kind of taste do you
Yeah.
get out of it? No? So that would be really hard to find around here in Maryland, I would think. I don't
It's
know.
got a yes, I don't think they do a lot of distilling or distributing around here. It's got a kind of the front of the palate is kind of this musty corn kind of taste. With a little bit of oak and peanut maybe. It's
Right.
kind of like a Old Forester with a little more corn, musty corn type of
Right.
taste. It's not bad. It's
Must be
good.
the
It's
mix
light.
of the
It's
mash. They
not
do a
hot.
little bit different tweak to the mash. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's their own stuff, which is pretty cool. And I'm glad I picked up a bottle. It's not bad.
Cool. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's talk bike packing for newbies or the experienced people out there. So as you mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit of a gearhead. So I researched for 6 months what I needed to go bike packing on my first trip, which was back before I did bike across Maryland. I did like the 330 mile in 4 days across the state of Maryland. I had my Specialized Crux, which isn't a bike packing bike. So there's tip number one. You don't need a bike packing bike to go bike packing. You can adapt to whatever you got. Obviously now I have the Salsa Cutthroat, which is more for bike packing. But I should have.
Although I would imagine a bike that can have bigger tires
Yeah,
on it.
I think I
is
ran. I was on the road mostly for that trip, and I rode. I think they were Schwabe G1s in a 38. They had small knobs, but they rolled really well on the road. 32s or 38s, I think, is what I rode on that trip. When you're loading up, you want something that's going to give you a comfortable ride. I mean, the Crux is all carbon, the one that I had, so it was pretty comfy. But so here's a rundown, and some of the resources. I would say YouTube is the best resource. And then if you go back to one of our episodes where we talked about where to buy bike stuff, those same lists of places like the backcountries, REI,
competitive cyclist,
eBay, yeah,
Amazon.
backpacking.com is a great resource for an overall website that has a lot of reviews on gear, bikes, and anything bike packing. That's run by the guy out of North Carolina, out of Brevard, who's very
Yeah,
good.
and I know before our big trip in the Smokies, you had suggested a lot of different stuff to me as kind of a starting point. And so what I did, I took that stuff and shopped around, and I do remember finding typically the best prices on Amazon. Now that was
Yeah,
3 years
Amazon.
ago,
Right,
but
right.
yeah.
I mean, again, I always Google it, Amazon, eBay, and a couple of these big brand sites to see who has the best price, depending what you want to get. So what do we start with? I just bought a new vest with the water thing on the back, right? Remember I told you I sold mine?
Yeah.
I went in my bike packing thing this morning, and guess what? I
Oh,
still have.
no.
I still have it. No, I have two of them. I thought
You thought you sold it but didn't?
did it. Yeah. So I got a blue one and a black one now. So this is the Evoc Hydro Pro 3. Again, I researched this for Unbound, is what I bought it for last year. This thing is teeny, weighs nothing. It's a liter and a half, very easy to drop the liter in the back. But what's cool about it, it has a couple pockets, sleeves, mesh sleeves in the front here. Not that you would load it up, but you could put CO2, a tire lever, a wolf tooth tool there for your chain breaker, some chain links. But have you tried yours out yet?
It should be arriving any day now. I don't have it yet, but yeah, I was just
you're
gonna
gonna
say,
love it, and it's even good for running. I mean, I talked
yeah,
to my
on your recommendation, I got it, especially because, like you say, it's good for running, so I can use it for that too. And I think it has, in addition to the front strap storage, you can put stuff in the back in the cargo area.
Yeah, you can.
put some
This
tools
back
there.
opens up. You can even put it in with the water
Yeah.
if you want. You have to be careful you don't puncture it. But
So I think that will be handy on our trip.
it's got a magnet here. So this is a great thing. And I think what makes it comfortable, it sits really high on your back. So there's no weight on your lower back. So that's a good thing. If you don't, I still carry 2 water bottles, but I can carry that.
Yeah.
You're doubling your water.
Yeah, I think I'll have that on the trip and 2 water bottles on the stem. That should be more
Right.
than enough.
So I'll start from the front of the bike and work back. So a bar bag is an essential thing you need. I just happen to have a Rafa bar bag, something that fits between. What are you shaking your head for?
Of course you have a raffle bar bag. What else would it be?
And in that, I'm usually gonna store my tent. So look how small this tent is. This is what do I got here? Big Agnes. This is a one-man bike packing tent that weighs, I think, 1.5 pounds. It's very light. The poles are very light too. The only thing I wish, and I think they came out with another one. The poles are a hair long, so I end up having to store those on my bike frame somewhere, or bungee it to the top of something I'll show you in a second. But Big Agnes is one of the best bike packing tents you can buy. There's a couple others. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Eureka makes some tents. I forget who the other is. But you want something that's light. You don't need a lot. You can get something called a bivvy, which I explored and I didn't like it. A bivvy is just like a little thing that you could put your sleeping bag in and put a little tarp up if it rains, but you really don't have a lot of protection on the elements.
Yeah, I have a Big Agnes as well. I forget. It's like the Aero Fly or Aero Light or something like that from what I remember.
Right.
I forget the model, but I have it go in a dry bag like you do as well. So I did spend a little bit of money on the tent.
Yeah.
The front bar bag that I have is not Rafa. I usually prefer to go the inexpensive Chinese route.
Right.
And so I believe mine is a Rock Brothers, which makes a lot of bike parts now. If you go on Amazon, you go to Rock Bros is actually what the company's
on
called.
Amazon. Right.
Yeah, and it's waterproof, watertight, and I used it in the Smokies. It was really good, and probably about a third of the cost is the Rafa one you have.
Right.
It was pretty affordable and holds a lot. And so the other thing that I was
bar bags, the key is that you have a setup where it doesn't rub on your front tire. It sits high enough and attaches to your bars, which allows you to still feel comfortable with your hands on the bars. So many of them, you have Velcro straps. Some of them put like little cushions between the bar and the bag to give you that space for your hand.
And now the Salsa makes that post that fits to your handlebar and
that's
holds
what I'm
it
thinking
out.
about getting. And they call it the Salsa. I forget Salsa, whatever
Cradle?
it is. Cradle.
The cradle?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting one. So that it mounts to the middle of your bars and then it sits away from your bars and you can strap everything to the cradle, which is a little bit cleaner as far as that goes. So
the other thing I was thinking about for the ride coming up, and I mentioned it to you, I don't think I'm going to do it, but just a depending on your circumstances, a light hammock instead of a tent. Could be less material to carry around, and depending on the circumstances, might work better for you.
if it's not raining, that might be an option. I mean, or the
if you
bears aren't
cover
out
like
to
a
get
shelter.
you.
What?
The bears aren't out to get you.
Well, the bears are going to get you either way, buddy.
Yes, true. So sleeping bags, another key essential thing. I'm trying to think of the name of the one. I have a 20-degree one, but then I thought most of the time when I'm bike packing, it's warm. So I went on Amazon. I did some research. This thing it looks big right now, but it actually folds down to even half this size. It's the size of a big beer can. And it wasn't that expensive. I think it's good to 40 degrees. What is this? This is it's a Jesus. I don't know what the hell you say that, but there it is right there.
Aegis.
Aegis. Yeah, if you look on Amazon, it's a very popular bag, very lightweight. Zipper works pretty good. It packs down very compact, and it's light. Doesn't weigh anything. So this is something you can stuff in your front bar bag for sleeping. I use that in the summertime, spring and fall, depending on how cool it is. I'll only drag out the heavy one if I'm going with, if it's below 40 degrees or below 35, which I don't usually bike pack when it's that cold anyway. But so I have 2 sleeping bags, but that's a good one. I think it cost maybe $69, $89 at the most.
Yeah,
it was
now
very reasonable.
I'm looking. My sleeping bag is from Teton Sports. I got it through Amazon. I'm actually looking the link right now. It's currently $55 shipped overnight.
Wow.
Goes down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's a mummy bag for $55.
That's a bargain.
Very kind of lightweight and portable.
Yeah.
So that's another option for people out there.
So sleeping bag is key. The other key thing, let me mention on the tent, I do some research. If you cut out a piece of, I think it's Tyvek, what they use on the side of houses before they put aluminum siding on, is a very lightweight material. It doesn't absorb water. So you can cut a piece, buy a piece, I think at Lowe's, I bought it, and you cut a piece to the frame of the bottom of your tent and roll it up with the tent. Shakes the water right off, in the morning, and it creates a good barrier between wherever your tent's laying to keep the moisture off the bottom of your tent. So that's a tip on tents. I don't know, what do you got for a pad? And this is one that there's so many options out there. I ended up going with I think it's a Nemo. This is the one that I got. You got to blow it up, but it doesn't take much at all to blow it up. It's got some baffles in it. It doesn't have a pillow. They have a couple different sizes. This is the regular size. It's called a Nemo Insulated Tensor. And this was a little pricey compared to some of the other ones, but lightweight, again, very compact. I mean, I have it opened up right now. It's very easy to inflate and very easy to deflate, and really comfortable. But the key is with the insulated, it creates that barrier, so on the cool mornings, it keeps you warm. It feeds off your body temperature and keeps you much warmer than if you didn't have the insulated one. You just air. There's a lot of inexpensive ones that aren't insulated. I opted for that, and I've been very happy with that.
Now, I'm looking at the one I bought on Amazon right now. Mm-hmm. It's from a company called Sleepingo. Ultralight sleeping camping mat for backpacking. Lightweight, inflatable, compact for $25.99.
It's probably not insulated.
I don't know. Probably not, but I mean, when we went out in the Smokies, I don't remember having a problem with any of my sleeping gear, the comfort level. Right. I think I also did get a pillow, but I don't think I ended up taking it because it's just too much.
Yeah, I have a pillow too. I found that I'll take one of my stuff bags and just put a shirt or down vest in it and use that for a pillow at night instead of having an extra piece. The key with bike packing is less is best. Yeah. And for the newbies out there, the first time you go, you think you need this, and then you do that trip, and you don't use a third of the stuff, and you're lugging around an extra 3 pounds, 4 pounds that you don't need to.
Although I do like a nice comfy pillow. I mean, I might, in the summertime, I might actually trade good pillow for sleeping bag.
Right.
And just wear like a sweatshirt.
Yeah, you can do
I don't know.
I have one. It has like a donut. I forget what brand it is that I did get. So here's another piece that I like. This is one of my favorite bike packing gears. It's Revelate Designs. I think they're out of Colorado or somewhere in the Northwest. This bag sits on top of my bar bag, so out in front. And what's nice about it, let me show you what comes in it. You can remove this or leave it in. It has get it out of here. It has a little insulated pack. So you can put your beer cans when you stop at the store and keep your beer cold when you get up to camp at night. Or you can just leave that out, forget that, and give yourself some more space. It's great for cameras. I put camera gear, I wouldn't put my cell phone now, but back then I had my cell phone in here. You could put a safety kit. You could put some tire levers, a tube, CO2, food, things that you might need quick access to. You don't have to go digging and open up your bags and stuff to get to. Again, with bike packing, a lot of it's logical about where you pack stuff and when you're going to need it. So rule of thumb, you want the most of your weight, anything heavy, in the center of your bike on a frame bag. I don't have a frame bag on either. I did, now that I think about it, on the Crux, I had a Rafa frame bag at the time I sold it. But so the frame bag, I put the heavy stuff, the CO2, the tubes. You want that center of gravity. Lightweight on your bars. That's where you put your sleeping bag, maybe a tent, no more than a couple pounds out there. And then your clothes, I'll get to in a second, I put in the back on a saddle bag or on a rack. I'm seriously thinking about getting a rack. But I like this because you can flip it open, stop and grab a camera, stop and grab food, things that you need. It doesn't weigh anything at all. And it straps onto the bars or around whatever you got up front for a bar bag.
Yeah, now, instead of something like that, I'm actually going for the rear rack with pannier bags.
You do panniers? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the rack I'm thinking about getting, it's an Ortlieb called a quick release rack. You could put panniers, or it has a top rack, and I'm getting it more for the top rack.
So
maybe
I think I saw that one, but I think that one
$99
attaches to the bike through the skewer or through axle. And I was concerned that if I got a flat or something like that and had to take the wheel off, that I was
this one
have to
doesn't go
remove
through the axle. There's mounts just above the axle on my frame or on most bikes where you can screw in
those mounts,
a little thing, and it has a quick release, which is nice. And then it has a rubber release around the neck or the base of your bike, and a little aluminum bar that goes and clamps onto the rack. So it's pretty nice.
My bike did not have the eyelet, so I was going to have to go through the skewer, and I did not want to do that.
Right. So here's a definite for bike packing. This is like they call feeder bags. So again, Revelate design. You don't have to get this, but I think I got a deal at REI Outlet. I found these. They were like half price. These are great because they got pockets on the sides, so you can put your goo, your Cliff Bars, whatever, your food. You can use one for food strictly. You can put your cell phone in here or another camera. It's got a quick shut top, so if it's raining, you can protect it. Or you can, like I do, I stick a bottle of water. It's on the inside of my front bars, and I like it because all I got to do is go like this to drink. I don't have to reach down if I'm going over bumpy gravel. I can do a quick drink and drop it right back in the bag. So it can be used for water bottles, food, or whatever you feel like putting in there. I think put a first aid kit, some tubes, CO2 in one, whatever. Very lightweight, don't weigh anything at all. I usually run with two of them when I'm bike packing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do you have anything like that?
I purchased something similar. I'm looking at it again on Amazon. This was a 2-pack, so I got 2 for the price of 1. And there's mesh on the outside of mine that it can hold your cell phone, it can hold little goos or whatever else.
Right.
It's the company I think is called Codblur. Bike water bottle bag, phone storage, handlebar, etc. For $18.99, you get 2 of them.
Wow, that's really cheap.
So that's what I got, insulated and the whole deal.
I mean, the one I just showed, I think they're like $69 a piece or $80 a piece. They're expensive.
Yeah, no, these, so it comes in 2 days from Amazon, so.
So let's talk saddlebags, or like you said, you got the option. You can do panniers, you can do a rack and just bungee some quick tie bags on there. I bought this several years ago from a trip across Maryland, and I love it. This is called a Revelate Designs Terrapin. I think they still make it. Now, what's unique about this, it attaches to your seat post with a Velcro strap. But what's neat about it, a couple things. So if you look on the back here, you can put your light. There's a Garmin, Camera's getting weird. A Garmin attachment or a Vario flashing light or just any kind of flashing light. But what's neat about it's got bungees on the top, so I can slide my sandals for camp in there. I could put a stove, I think is what I had on there, which I'll get to in a second, on my trip. But when you get to camp, and it's got these side things that cinch down once you put it on your bike, let me show you how this works. So there's two quick release things here on the back, which open up, and you're pulling out this when you get to camp. This stays on your bike right here, and you're pulling out the bag with all your clothes and stuff that you need for camp right here. So, and what's nice about it, on the bottom it's a hard plastic. So this, as you can see, I hit my tire a little bit. If you have it bouncing off your tire at some point, it's not going to kill your bag or anything. What's cool about this sack is it's got this little air thing here. So as you're filling it up with your stuff, you're putting your stuff in, and you squeegee down the top of it here. This is a quick release that opens up so you can get in here and stuff your thing. And again, as far as how you're packing, you're going to put the things you're going to use last at the bottom when you get to camp, and the things that you might, for some reason, have to reach for during the day on a trip. Not that I would reach for this. This is more when you get to camp, getting out your clothes of change, things like that. But it's got this little air valve, so as you're squeegeeing this down, you can shut it down, let the air out, and then close that. And depending on how much stuff you're carrying, it's going to be all tight and convenient and compact to slide into your the other part of the case. So this is cool. So either I'll use this for our trip, or if I get a bike rack, I might just bungee this right to the top of the bike rack, and I don't even need to attach anything. The other part, which will save me a lot of weight, because that's a little bit, it's not heavy, but it's probably the weight of a bike rack, so I wouldn't use both. So that's what I have. That was a saddle bag that can be attached to any kind of bike. You don't need a rack on the back of your bike. You just need clearance. You got to make sure you have enough clearance so that it's going to sit high above your rear tire. Since I got the Salsa Cutthroat, and you may or may not have the ability to do this, but there are workarounds. I forget these are called. These are cages that go on my front fork of each side of the front on the Salsa Cutthroat. And then you have a bag, again, that you could stuff in here and squeegee it down. And then you have, where did I put them? I think they're inside. You have these straps that go around between the rack and the bag to hold this on your fork. And what's nice, these aren't too big, but it's enough where you can stuff. I mean, I could put my sleeping pad in one of these. I could put my sleeping bag on the other side. I can not use the bag, and I can attach a water bottle. A fairly sizable aluminum or plastic water bottle if we get to camp, and just use that for cooking. So this gives me some flexibility on carrying a little bit of extra gear that's well balanced on the front fork, down low, not up high. So it gives me stability when I'm riding. And I'm looking forward to using this. I will definitely use this for our trip when we go out for that. So let's talk about when you get to camp. I like to get out of my cycling shoes. There's two options. I'm not sure what I'll use for our trip. This is a sandal made by Keen, which I love, and I picked these up at a really good price. They're a little pricey. I think they're like $150, and I got it for $60 or something like that. But what's cool about these, they got a Vibram sole with a lot of tread on. So if I want to go fishing when I get to camp, I can walk in the river with shorts. It's got a rubber toe, so I'm walking in the woods collecting wood. I'm not going to stub my feet. It's adjustable, very comfortable, so I can strap these on top with the bungee, and I have something very durable when I get to camp to get out of my cycling shoes. So that, or I don't have them with me. I haven't found them because they're still in storage for summer. But I have a thick, lightweight foam flip-flop with just a Velcro top that's very lightweight, which I very well may take that as an option because they're lighter than that. They don't weigh anything at all. and I think you can get those on Amazon for $29 or $20. But I've gone through several pair of those. So that's another thing. Number one, cooking. So let's talk when we get to camp. I think I've only used this thing once or twice. This is called a jet boil. As you see, it's got a handle which folds around it when you're not at camp. But what's cool about this is I did the research on these. Weighs nothing at all. Fairly small. You see, it fits in my hand. But what's cool when you get to camp, you can take this top off. So it's got a pot here. I put all the things I'm going to use to clean, cook. Actually, inside here, I put the butane tank that you're going to use that goes underneath this. And here's how simple it is. So the bottom comes off. It's got my coffee filter thing on the bottom there. It's as simple as this. You lock that on like that. Here's your burner. This pops right on to that. And what's cool about this boils water in a minute and a half. This whole pot of water. So you got a setup where you can boil your water in a minute and a half, drop in your dry food, and have dinner in 5 minutes. I mean, it's really quick. And it works good even in the cold weather. It just got a burner that rockets right on up. And then I usually take an extra one of these, depending if it's a multi-day trip. I might take 2 of these. They're very light, inexpensive. This is another good company to check out, MSR. They make camp gear. They make tents. That was the other tent company, MSR. You can find them at REI. Really good products, from cooking stoves to tents to cookware, things like that. And you got to have one of these, a little titanium coffee cup that's lightweight. There's the various versions of this. I don't know which one I have here. And then you got your coffee in there. But very compact for everything cooking. So you're stuffing some dried food. If you want, have beef stroganoff and some breakfast there. Here's a tip. I found these at Sierra. There's a store here in Frederick. They're also online. They've got really good prices on anything outdoor camping gear. So some of the stuff you see here today, they might have not a Revelate design bag or anything like that. But for little stuff, what else? Like cooking utensils. I have a long thing that has like a spoon and a fork in one, so you can use that to eat your stuff. What else? The last thing I'm going to talk about, we're almost done here. I have a bag of miscellaneous stuff that I'll usually stick in some of the bags we just discussed. You want a water filter, especially like on our trip, that will filter water out of a stream if you get low for some reason. So that's one. I'm trying to think of the name of the product. There's one or two that are the top products. You need a safety kit, with some Band-Aids, some wraparound things, a lighter, maybe some Neosporin, a small pocket knife. So you want to have some kind of safety kit because you're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no hospitals around. You get bit by a snake.
In the stream.
Some off, if you're out in the middle of the woods in a rainstorm with the mosquitoes, is always good. Toothbrush, maybe some deodorant, toothpaste. That's about it. Oh, here it is. This is Sawyer. Is the water filtration unit that I use for that. And those are the basics. I would say those are the main things you need, or any variation of it. Like you said, you can spend a lot or a little, but just get a decent lightweight tent or bivvy, a good sleeping bag. You may not even have to cook if you're nearby food, wherever you're camping, but the jet stove is a great investment. And it even works at high altitude. I read if you're like up in the Rockies, it'll work with low air quality. It'll still work. A good saddle bag or rack on the back, frame bag or front bar bag. Those are the 3 key components. And the whole key is to balance the load. I mean, and last I'll say is, and you weren't with me on this, but do a test run before you do your first trip. Go do an overnight. I did it in my backyard and put my tent up. I checked to make sure my burner was working, propane, how to use it. So test out everything you buy the first time before you head down the road and find out you forgot that, or this didn't work, or you're missing a pole, something with your tent, or whatever it is, to make sure everything's working fine.
You
So
missed the
hopefully
30-pound backpack on your back. You didn't talk about that.
that's another rule. Try to avoid putting a lot of weight on your back, especially if you're doing a long trip. Maybe you can get away with it for a day, an overnighter, but I think everybody says, and I've experienced it, less weight on your back. If you can just go with a t-shirt on your back, you're going to enjoy the ride a lot more. But again, balancing the weight, I try to stick around 30, no more than 30 pounds of gear total. Those guys on the pants route, I think they said they had 100 pounds on their bike, which I find
They might have
hard to
been
believe.
exaggerating, but yeah, they had some heavier gear.
But they probably had at least 50 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he said his tent was 30 pounds.
Some other things that I have a solar battery charger.
Oh,
So you
that's
can
a
just
good
leave
one.
that on
Yeah.
the top of your rack all day, let it collect the sun, and then when you get to camp at night, if you don't have any outlets, you can charge your gizmos into that thing, and you
Yeah,
can
I
just
have an
recharge it the
Anchor
next day.
charger. I forgot that because it's out in the garage. So if you can buy an inexpensive charger and a couple cables for your cell phone, your Garmin,
Yep.
to get charged up in camp.
Make sure
without
you have the
plugging in.
cables,
Yep.
applicable cables. I'm going to be taking a Leatherman with all sorts of different stuff on it. Just you never know where you're going to run into.
Another one is a headlight. I have a band
Headlight.
with a light, so I can use that at camp if I'm walking around, going out of my tent at night, while I'm setting up my tent if it is dark. It's lightweight. If you go through tunnels on your trip, you'll have that. Again, I would stick that on my front bag so it's quick access.
And if you really want to, and you're going to be by like a river or stream, you could take some fishing. There's Woody. You could take some fishing line and a hook, and make yourself a little fishing pole.
Yeah, last year I got a little vest and my small compact fly fishing rod. So if I want to do some fly fishing while I'm at camp, I could do that too.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So those are some tips to hopefully help everybody with your first bike packing trip. But again, do the research. YouTube, Amazon, backpacking.com is a great resource for what to get on your first trip. And then route planning obviously is another thing. I mean, as a rule of thumb, if you're just starting out, I would recommend 20 to 40 miles a day. If you're intermediate to advanced, you can do 40 to 80 a day without much trouble in an 8-hour day. For us, it's going to be interesting doing 90 miles a day. That's a long day. When I did the bike across Maryland, which was my first official trip, I think my daily routes were 60 to 80 miles. But that was all roads, so that's different. And I had some climbing on certain days, less on others. And that was very doable and very comfortable. I think I wasn't on the bike more than 8 hours. I mean, I anticipate a long day the first day and last day on
I
our
think
trip.
for us, early starts are going to be key when it's still cool, we're still fresh, you're right off sleep, no lingering around camp and getting late starts, so we're pulling in the dark.
Right.
You get started early and you're fresh, and then and you don't have to worry about stores closing, stuff like that. So you start early and you're fresh, and you can maybe wrap up around 5 or 6 and have plenty of sunlight to set up camp and stuff.
Correct. So what do we got on the next couple of shows that you got
All right,
in
Blaise.
your back pocket here?
We're
Wrap up.
starting a new, I think it's going to be a 2-part series, okay? And I have to give proper attribution to the Bourbon Junkies. Yes, Bourbon Junkies. If you watch them on YouTube, I actually saw this idea watching one of their videos yesterday. It was a good idea. So we're going to do a little bit of a twist on it. So what we're going to do is each of us is going to have $150. And the premise of this is that for $150, you have to build the best bourbon collection you can possibly buy for $150. And so then how are we going to determine who has the best collection? Well, in their video, they kind of left it up to like viewer comments, and
Right.
they went back and forth about what they personally thought about the choices. But we're gonna take a more hard-line approach to this, okay? And what we're gonna do is each of us will pick our top 3 bottles.
Okay.
Top 3 bottles, and enter it into a blind taste test. Okay? Those bottles are going to be all mixed up, and we're going to choose which ones we like best. And then we're going to do a big reveal as to whose we picked, and we'll see if someone had the better tasting collection or not for the money. Okay? Now, here are the rules. And I have to ask you a question before I set the rules, okay? So the rules are going to be this. You can't online shop. Everything has to be from a real store, okay? And we're going to include tax and everything else. It's out the door pricing, okay?
Okay.
Now, no coupons or anything else like that. No favors calling in to the guy that you know who owns a liquor store. Nothing like that. No secondhand. Nothing from a neighbor. Has to be from the store. Now, the question is, I was possibly going to enter in a bottle or two from my trip to Notre Dame that hasn't been opened up yet, etc., etc. But I don't know if that runs afoul of the
I think
rules.
it does.
So it has to be local store.
Yeah, local.
Local store, meaning within a 20-mile radius.
It could even be 30 miles, maybe. I'd say half hour.
The tricky part is what I'm getting to
Yeah.
is we live close to a lot of other states.
True. Virginia, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah, so are we going to keep this? It has to be Maryland
Uh,
within a 20-mile.
I'd say we could go Virginia and PA if we wanted to.
West
Not that
Virginia?
I would. Yeah, you're all over the place. West Virginia. Yeah, I guess you could include that.
Okay.
All right, no
Well,
more than that. Those
I'm headed up
so
to
Mid-Atlantic.
Pennsylvania this weekend for hockey. We'll see what maybe
Right.
I can find.
I'm going to PA this weekend too, actually. So
Huh.
yeah.
So next week's episode will be some video of us on our bourbon hunting journey.
Right.
Kind of talking about. We're not going to do it. We're not going to review any bottles, but we're going to properly capture where we've been, what we're getting, where we stand on our budget.
Right.
And then the following episode, we'll do our blind taste test and determine who has the best collection for $150.
Right. Should be interesting.
I think it's going to be good.
All right.
If nothing else, we'll get $150 worth of bourbon out of it.
Right, exactly. All right, well, that sounds good. Hopefully we helped everybody. Remember to like and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel, and give us some feedback on future shows and options. So that's what we got this week. Good seeing you, Hank.
Good seeing you, Blaise.
Happy
It's been a while.
shopping. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to PA, so I'm going to be looking on the way up and back. So I'll check some
All
places.
right. So just for purposes of clarity, the $150 bourbon hunting journey starts now, right?
Okay, yeah, we're on.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
See ya.
Bye. Peace.
Bye.